How to beat sugar cravings? That is the question of the day. Hello, this is Aishan, aka the Omnivorist. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner in Paris, France, and I'm passionate about helping busy moms recover their energy and vitality through real food and healthy habits. And welcome to my weekly series, Ask the Omnivorist, Food and Health Nuggets for Busy Mamas. Now, the question about sugar cravings is one that I get a lot, especially during the colder months. And this has been a really long winter here in Paris, and I think Europe in general. So I thought that it was a good time to address this question. Now, this one's going to be another two-parter. Today, I'm going to tell you a bit about what might be going on in your body when you're experiencing cravings. And next week, I'm going to get into more of the practical tips of what to do when that moment hits. Okay? So maybe this is something you can relate to. You know, you open up a package of cookies for a small bite, and before you know it, you've downed half the packet or maybe all of it. So now you don't feel so good, and you're maybe regretful, and you're even mad at yourself. Now, first, I want you to adopt a little bit of a mindset shift. Believe it or not, your body is actually not trying to sabotage you, okay? It is actually speaking to us all the time, and it is up to us to start to become curious and try to understand exactly what it's trying to say. And another piece of newsflash for you is that willpower is totally overrated, okay? It is not for a lack of, for lack of willpower that you're experiencing these cravings or caving into them. There are other things, deeper things that are going on. Now, the thing is, the urges that drive us to overeat or to eat unhealthy things are actually coming from our subconscious brains. And they are actually very, very powerful. So your willpower, which is really your conscious brain's way of trying to put a stop to things, is coming up short, but that's really natural. And I'm going to explain to you why. As you know, I really often like to talk about the evolutionary, an ancestral point of view. And here too, it is really useful. Now, the thing is, we are actually wired to seek caloric density. Because back in the day, when we were living as hunter-gatherers, when we were evolving in the natural world, it was a question of feast or famine. You know, it was here one day and gone the next. So you basically had to get your fill while it lasted. But whereas today in our modern world, in our modern supermarkets, it's a constant feast. So the thing is, those urges, those drives that served us well throughout our evolution are actually our undoing today. So we actually evolved to seek out, things that are really, fat or sugar, or things that are really dense and nutritionally, or not always nutritionally, but at least the taste, it's calorically dense. And actually in nature, there were also no foods that were bad for us. But of course, there were toxins. And actually, a sweet taste signaled that that food was not poisonous. So we're actually kind of, wired to have a sweet tooth. And that sounds a little unfair, doesn't it? Now, with that in mind, I want you to ask yourself a few questions when that moment hits. Now, number one is, have I eaten enough? Now, that is something that might be a little surprising for you, but this is so often the case, especially us women. We've been so conditioned to always be paying attention to what we're eating, so that we don't, put on the pounds. And sometimes that translates to under-eating or not eating enough of the right nourishing foods. And very often it's going to mean also that we're not eating enough fat. So that is really the first question to ask yourself, to go back and just think of what you ate earlier in the day. Or it could be a case of, dinner time has gone by in such a haze because you were trying to feed the kids and you maybe got a few bites in, but you were kind of grazing and not even focusing on your food. So that might also be the case. So I know that for me personally, when I get that craving for a chocolate or a date, at 10 p.m., I first think about what did I eat? And oftentimes for me personally, it's a lack of, I haven't had enough protein, earlier that day. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Number two, this is also really important. Have you been drinking enough? Actually, we are often dehydrated, and that can show up as hunger. So what you could do is first, before you take anything else that you might regret later on, have a big glass of water, okay? I mean, you might still want to reach for that sweet, but at least you'll be a little more full, and maybe you'll have a little less room for that sweet thing. And the third question I want you to ask yourself, and this may come as a surprise to you, and that is, have you been sleeping enough? Okay? Now, sleep, in case you don't realize this already, it is incredibly crucial to us, to our well-being, and it is just as important as food and drink, okay? And when we are sleep deprived, everything is more complicated, and actually making good decisions is really difficult as well. So maybe you should just drop that chocolate and go to bed right away, okay? So now those are the three questions I first want you to ask yourself. Did I eat enough? Did I drink enough? And did I sleep enough? And then what we will do is how to set yourself up for success, okay? Because those questions will allow you to maybe prepare better the next time, so you don't find yourself in this situation in the first place. Now, one of the biggest takeaways that I always try to give you is the importance of eating real food and really basing your diet on real, whole, nourishing foods as much of the time as possible. And if you want to know more about that, just go back to the first 2 episodes in this series. The other important thing is, which is related, is to have a real food breakfast. Really trying to start your day on the right footing, nourishing your body properly. You know, a breakfast that is heavier on fat and protein than refined carbs and sugar. In that way, your blood sugar control will be much more stable throughout the day, and that will make everything else easier. And to know more about that, go back to episodes 3 and 4 of this series, okay? And I will post all the links for that as well. And the other thing that I want you to consider is to surround yourself with healthier options. So if there are things that you really regret eating, or you don't feel good afterwards, you realize that it doesn't do your body good, then just don't have them in your environment. Just stop buying them, or maybe buy just a small portion that you plan on eating at a certain moment, so that you will feel less out of control when the moment hits. So that thing about willpower I was saying earlier, you have to realize that willpower is kind of like a muscle, okay? And it gets tired as the day goes on. And when you've been making too many decisions earlier in your day, your willpower is actually totally exhausted. So that's why it's not great to rely on it on the moment, in the heat of the moment, but rather rely on your willpower to establish better habits earlier in the day so that you have the dietary foundation to then, start having a healthier lifestyle. That's really the key. Now, okay, the bottom line that I have for you today is become curious of what your body is trying to tell you with the cravings. Plan better for the next time. So actually forgive yourself as well. You might crave into them. That's not a problem. But the thing that's important in life is to always be learning from our experiences and plan better the next time. Start your day with a real food breakfast, and make sure to be eating enough of the right things, and especially eating enough protein. So that is what I have for you today. Don't forget to tune in next week, where I will give you some more practical tips on how to manage your cravings in the heat of the moment. Okay? Now, thank you so much for being here. If you've enjoyed this, please go ahead and like and share, and feel free to make comments. And if you have any more questions that you'd like me to address, please feel free about that. And if you haven't already, make sure to join our private free Facebook group, the Mama Reboot Community. And the link for that also is in the comments. Thank you so much, and I will see you right here next week.